Hey everyone, welcome back to the table. I'm Scott, and today we're going to go through our How to Make a Diorama series. This is going to be a 5-part series where we teach you how to make this diorama from start to finish. We're going to tell you what materials you need, what techniques you need to learn, show you those techniques, and how to make this thing look awesome. So come join us as we walk you through how to make that happen. Hey everyone, welcome back to the table. I'm Scott, and this is going to be the final session of our diorama making series. So last one, we did a bunch of dry brushing to all of our terrain that's up top. We did the same thing with the beach. Everything looks awesome. And so the final thing we did in the last session is we actually poured the resin. Showing it off here, you can see that we got our rich blueness here that we were looking for. We got the darker blue that's in this section, the lighter blue that's in here. There's some variation. And the part of the reason that happened is because we did that darker base down on the bottom and then made the resin itself tinted with some light blue, but largely transparent, so we can control that gradient effect. What we're going to be doing in this session is putting down the water effects so we can have waves incoming into the beach here. We're also going to put down all the greenery and shrubberies that are up in the rocky area, and then just do some finishing details to put it all together. Okay, so one of the things we got to do is clean up our area from the last time. I still have everything out from the resin. Really, I waited a couple days for this to cure. It all depends on the resin. There's some resins that will cure in six hours or so. So it all depends on what kind you have. Even though we put supports on the edge, you can see here in some of the pictures that I'm showing you that we did have a little bit run out, but not very much. This is exactly why I put it on a tray. The alternative effect is that you could erase it up, put something underneath it, and just had this down. I double up because you just don't know. Like I said, I've had a couple bad resin pours and it did not turn out great. All right, so our next step that we're going to do here is take off the supports. Now, what our plan is when we take these edges off is I'm going to actually put black along this entire edge that I have here. I'm going to paint the whole side of it black, because that's going to help us just blend everything in and clean it up, because there's really no easy way to do this since I have to glue these onto the edges. Let's go ahead and remove the supports. There's nothing special you have to do, really. You can just peel them off. What we've done is removed all the supports. What we can see is that we have a few little edges. One of the things that happens with resin, or when you pour it, it will actually sink a little bit, and the resin tends to adhere to the edges, and it creates kind of like a scoop. So one of the things you can do is you can take some clippers, and you can clip it down, so then it removes that edge. Now, one of the other things that you could do to really help make this thing work well is you can sand it. Now, you want to be a little bit careful with sanding. One, because it can be very dangerous. Resin and making it airborne and it gets into your lungs is really bad. So wear a mask. There's no exceptions to this. Don't think you can do it by holding your breath or some weird crap like that. It doesn't work. It's not a good idea. Extremely dangerous. So we're just going to use the clippers, and we're going to hit the edges. And for example, and I'm just going to clip this big edge off here, and I'm just going to continue to make my way around this. Now, additionally, once you clip part of this off, you can use your hobby knife. You could use your hobby knife, and you could shape it a little bit more as well and make it look a little smoother. So with the supports removed off the edges, we're going to move on to the next step, and that's getting the base for the waves to go. Now, this is going to take a little bit for it to dry, so that's why I want to do it first. And there's a couple different methods you can accomplish this. Some people use hot glue, some people use regular glue, some people actually let their resin partially cure and then shape it in the form they want. The way I like to do it is I use a matte medium gel, which is this here. It's a product made by Liquitex, and it comes out and it's very similar to paint, but it's a little thicker. And when it dries, it's a little thicker. When it dries, it is completely clear. So that's going to be our plan here. So to do this, we're going to take some of the matte medium gel. I'm going to take my paintbrush, take this and smear it this way on it. What this is going to do as well is give your water some texture, which is what we want to do. So it's not just uniform all over the whole entire thing. Is now imagine where we want the wave to go. Is the wave going to be uniform, completely straight? Is it going to be arced a little bit? I'm not trying to make everything on this completely 100% smooth. I want it to be smooth-ish, but I'm not looking for it to be perfect. So now we have our defined line. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm going to make it, I'm going to kind of put some texture. So I wanted to do is I want it to kind of look like a wave that's circled here and then it peaks up top. So kind of like that. So we're gonna first I'm gonna just kind of do one of those with it. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the next line. Now we're going to have to decide how far away you want the waves. I probably should have talked about that with you all before I got this far, but roughly waves are somewhat uniform if you're going to have multiple waves and how far apart they are, unless what is creating the waves is changing. So I have them about that much apart, which means I'm going to do a line of waves roughly around here. And then I'll do one more that's right here. So I'm going to have 3 sets of waves coming through. All right, let's go ahead and we're just going to dab this in. And we're not going to make all these waves as crazy as the first set that we did. All right, we're going to do the final set of waves here. And you're just kind of doing like this motion seems to help a lot. And you're just pulling it in and over the side and let it kind of flip over on its own. So while this dries, we're going to work on the rest of the diorama. It's probably going to take it a little bit. So hopefully by the time we're done with this, we can jump back over here and put the finishing touches on it. All right, to start this side, what we're going to need is some more glue. Now, we're going to do a very watered down version of the PVA glue. See, at least 1-to-1 of the water. I want it to be very watered down because in that way we can have it get into the nooks and crannies and then put our material on top of it. Before we get started in this, I think it's a good time to talk about how we're going to actually do the grass and greenery on this hill. So one of the things that you can get here is this foliage like this. It comes in a bag and it's clumped together, and they usually have like different things. In this particular case, it is clump foliage and it's light green. And then you have this here that is clump foliage, and it's a medium green. And so if we were to compare the two of them, you can see that there's different shades in color. There's really nothing different about them. They also give you some ideas of how it looks in the back, some instructions, and a lot of things typically have those. It just depends. I happen to find these, I believe I got them online. Also, other things that you can do is Army Painter makes some good products. There's a variety of people out there. Army Painter's just one of them, but they have these here that they're just like little tops of grass that you can put down, and you basically peel them off of there, and then they can stick. I always put a little bit of glue with them, so we'll probably use a little bit of this. Some of the other things that you can get as well is you can have these, which are some flowers. You can see I got some purple and some darker blue. I think those are violet ones. And then if you can see in the sandwich portion, there's some yellow and some red. So you can put those on there as well. I'm not planning on putting flowers on these, but I just wanted to show them to you. A couple of the other things that I want to mention here is some battlefield rocks. This is some that are made by Army Painter. They're really just kind of pieces of foam that are cut into little chunks and then colored. You can use these. I like them and put them down, and then you can color them after or leave them the color they are. It just is up to you. I'm probably going to leave them the color they are and just put a few on there to give it a little bit more texture. And then the other thing that's really, really helpful is battlefield grass. This is, again, something from Army Painter. There's different kinds of grass. So battlefield grass is kind of meant to sit a little flatter. It's not longer. A whole genre of things you can do with different types of grass, where you could do there's a grass applicator that will actually make the grass stand up. So if you had taller grass, that would make it look more realistic. Or even with the battlefield grass, you can do that, and that'll make it stand up instead of just laying flat like somebody sprinkled grass all over it, right? I'm not going to go into all that. We're going to do it very simple because, again, I want this to be something that you all can do at home with minimal tools. But I will do a video in the future of using the grass applicator to be able to apply it to a diorama or some other thing. To get started here, what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of lightly map out the area that we're going to expect to put down some of this stuff. I've decided on a couple different things. One, I'm going to use this light foliage and these darker bushes, and I'm going to put them down in some of the areas that are more protected and from the weathering. So kind of the undersides here. I'm going to use the battlefield grass in a lot of the flat areas, but I'm not going to completely cover it, but I am going to use quite a bit. I'm going to avoid the areas that are traveled, and I'm going to leave those areas, these flatter areas, alone with it, simply because they're going to be worn out and not used as much. But I am going to use some of my green wash to give it some green type appearance. To map out our area, we're going to use our cup and our glue that we just watered down, and we're simply just going to brush it onto the areas. All right, so we're going to start working our way side to side and just go from there, being careful not to bump the waves that we have drying on the side. Just going to apply the glue. Now the good thing about the glue is it applies clear, so if we put a little more than what we expect on here, it's not that big of a deal. So you can be generous with it. We have some of our bushes down, so now we're going to work on putting the rest. Now some of this is going to feel not particularly secure when you're putting it on here, and that's okay. We're going to add some other glue to this afterwards that's going to help make everything more secure. Next up here, we're going to put our grass down. Now with this, you kind of almost use it like salt, where you take a clump, sift it with your finger. Part of the reason I'm doing this and not up here is because this is actually starting to dry. It's getting a little tacky already, and I want it to be able to stick with the battlefield grass. So we're going to put this down, and then I'll repeat the process up here on the top section. I'm sorry, you might sprinkle some grass on places that it shouldn't go. That's okay too. And the reason that's okay is that when we're done, and it dries completely, we're gonna actually take a vacuum to this. We're just gonna repeat the process up top here. Okay, next step now that we have this down is we're going to take our glue and we're actually going to water it down a bit more. Then I'm going to use the pipette to glue on top of this to be able to help it stay even more secure. So what I'm looking for is, I would say, a skimmed milk consistency. Now you're going to see it absorb into the grass. That's exactly what we want to have happen. What you don't want is little green fuzzies floating around all over the place. I'm not putting it on the bushes, because if I put it directly on top of the bushes, the grass that might be there is going to stick and it'll look like fuzzy bushes, and we don't necessarily want that. Now you could put the bushes down, let them dry, and then put the grass down. That's fine too. All right, so at this point I've put a clear coat of over top of the water just so it has that shiny effect again. But you can see the waves are there. They look really good. They look like surf. We want to clean up all of the grass that we put down. We can see that it's kind of firm when we touch it. We want to vacuum up all of the extra little pieces. That looks a lot better now that we've got everything vacuumed up. All the little rogue grass pieces are now picked up. The other thing that we want to do is finish this piece off. What that means is on the sides, you can kind of see that it's gray. We got some streaking here. We got a couple different things going on. So really all we're going to do is, just like we rim the back of the edges of our base, we're going to rim or edge our diorama. So it's going to be very simple. I just have some black Vallejo paint that I'm going to use. You can use craft paint. You don't have to use something as fancy as I am. While we put it to dry, it's a good time to talk about basing. Now, basing could come in a lot of different ways. I think one of the most effective ways to base your models that you're planning on putting on a display board or diorama is to have them match as closely as possible to whatever they're being placed on. If you're going for a competition, this helps immensely because you are building a theme, you're telling a story, there's good visualization of what is happening. And sometimes that is the creative portion of this project, is figuring out how you're going to do the same effect on a base that might be much smaller. How do you go around models? What do you do? A couple quick tips on that. One is sometimes it's better just to cut the model off the base and start that way, then glue the model onto the base. If you're figuring out the basing before you build the model, think about how the model is going to blend into that basing and what stance it's going to have, and will interact or interrupt whatever's at. And then the third thing to consider is, if you're playing this for competition, make sure that you're not putting the model on some type of increased height or stand that's going to give it an additional advantage. So thanks for sticking through with me to the end of this. As you can see, this thing turned out fantastic, and I hope you've been following us along as you've been doing this as well. If not, you got the whole series now to be able to do the entire thing. You can follow along, rewind, do what you need to do, and create this on your own. We're planning on creating more of these in the future, of just how to do things in some simple, easy steps, and making it a way that's instructional so you can do it too. And until next time, when we see you at the table.